Hey Siri, answer this question. Who would win between Heracross or Sizzle?
I'm sorry. I don't know what you mean by it. Why does my dad look up scissoring?
Yeah, I'm starting to realise why not many people use you. Ah, zombies. That'll explain the text I got from my granddad. Who's been dead for 10 years. So this is how it ends for us, huh? Zombies. Pretty cliche, really. Well, it's a good thing I've been playing these two games lately. It is no secret now, at this point, if you're familiar with my channel, you would know I'm known for my Death Battle podcast, my many SpongeBob videos, and of course, the bundle of Resident Evil games I've played. From the mainline games to its reboots, I've played some of the spin-offs like Code Veronica, I've played the originals, I've even played some of the remakes. I am excited for Resident Evil 4's remake, I cannot wait to play that for the channel. The games though that started me on this journey of playing all the games were these two remakes. The reason I got the second remake was because some of my friends from work, and even one of my friends online, Yang Insane, you might know her for her terrible puns, she was talking a lot about this game, saying it should be Game of the Year, and she's replayed it so many times to the point she even completed it without dying once, which was the inspiration for me to actually try it myself with Resident Evil 3's remake. So I finally actually played the game myself, and I was really surprised at how much I liked this game. It had both scares, it had creative monsters, really good level design. It wasn't your typical get a gun, shoot all the zombies in the way, and move on to the next area. It truly felt like a survival horror game. So, of course, when I eventually started doing my own YouTube channel, I was thinking I wanted to be a Let's Play channel as well as a podcast channel, but what was my main theme going to be for playing, like, games on my channel? That's when I thought, let me see what Resident Evil 3's remake was like, let me record it, and let me see how it is. Now, I've already talked a lot about Resident Evil 3 on this channel, from the podcast me and Jaru did, I've played it myself, done the stream where I did the permadeath. So I thought I'd do something different for Billy Ween. So, what makes Resident Evil special to me is the amount of monsters you encounter in the games. I mean, think about it, the very first game you encounter zombies, zombie dogs, flowers, giant tarantulas, a tyrant with a giant claw, reptilian creatures, a crazy lady that seems to be made out of some sort of worm-like parasite, and even like the humanoid bug people that stalk you during the last section of the game. It's actually crazy how many monsters onwards they've made for this franchise. Like, they get so creative, they get so disturbing to look at. Even to the point their villains are really iconic, ginormous monsters that you have to inevitably face. I knew of the Nemesis, I've seen him in Marvel vs. Capcom, I've seen all manner of like fan art and fan fights of him. But I never quite understood what made the Tyrant so iconic, or all these other monsters, why they're so talked about. So for Billy Ween, I thought I'll do something different this year. Last year I ranked my favourite horror Let's Plays I've done for this channel. So I wanted to do something special for these two games, because if it wasn't for these two remakes, I don't think I would be making YouTube videos at the moment. I probably wouldn't even be making podcasts really. Like, I really owe my channel a lot to these games. They really mean that much to me, and I still play them even to this day. So, of course, for Billy Ween, I decided, let's actually sit down and rank all the monsters from the two remakes of the games that I've played for my channel. I will be excluding the first game. One, this video would go on for way too long. And two, I think I want to save that for its own video, because I played that before I started doing YouTube, and it's a really good game and I really want to talk about it. That could be something me and Joe will discuss in the future, we'll see. So ladies and gentlemen, let us sit back, let us get our popcorn ready and our candy, while we inevitably wait for the zombies to break down my door and tear me to shreds. I won't lie, I really imagine myself dying in a sexual act, not to zombies. Can never be prepared for these things.
Stop moving.
Officer, you need help?
Stay back, sir. I got this.
Hey, get off him! Right now!
Help me!
It's kind of hard to talk about Resident Evil without mentioning, of course, the most iconic monsters, the zombies. Okay, yeah, zombies have been done to death, pun intended, but to be honest, I feel like when it comes to the Resident Evil zombies, the zombies stand out much more than your typical Left 4 Dead zombies, or your Dead Rising, or just pretty much any other zombie game you've probably played. Okay, I'm not completely blind. There's been some nice twists on the zombie formula, you know. We've had the fungus zombies from Last of Us. We've had those weird like vampire-like zombies from I Am Legend. So there's obviously been some like influences on zombies throughout the years. But what made zombies scary for me? Well, to me, zombies in most games are pretty much your cannon fodder. You know, they're just there to slow you down, you shoot them, you beat them, move along. But I remember encountering my first zombie in the Resident Evil 2 remake, shooting him in the head twice, and yet it was still coming towards me. What made the zombies from the remakes more interesting to me though is the fact that zombies don't seem like they're just interested in just eating. They look like they just want to keep spreading the virus and sort of build this like hive mind of creatures. Kind of similar to the case of like the Flood from Halo, but less intelligent, more animalistic, you know. And that's not to say the zombies are hard to kill, it's a bit of like RNG to it. When it comes to zombies, you can easily one-shot them and they'll just die instantly from a shot in the head or anywhere else on their body. But most of the time, you're going to struggle fighting these zombies because they're really hard to kill. They're slow, but they can quickly overwhelm you and get you in a corner if you're too preoccupied trying to kill that one zombie. The zombies in the remakes require you to more think outside the box on how to avoid them and save your ammo. If you have no choice and you have to shoot them, what do you try and do? Do you take a risk and try and get a headshot to hopefully kill them? Or do you play smart and take out their legs, which will soak up more ammo but have the chance to get them on the floor and make them less harmless? Of course, this doesn't work all the time because, of course, you could end up just wasting like so many bullets trying to hit that very thin part of their leg to weaken them. For me, I always think it's smart to just try and take them out if you feel like you can't avoid them. But of course, then there's that other risk. If you shoot a zombie and it falls down, it might not entirely be dead, because you're at the risk of that corpse potentially coming back and wandering around the station or the town. Of course, you can like waste your utilities by like either stabbing or shooting the corpses to try and get them to move. But you gotta think like, do I have time to do this, and is this the sort of area I want to do it in because there are other monsters trying to kill me? Not just that, you could walk past a corpse which could just be another decoration to the environment, but then that corpse could just reach up and try and grab you, showing that it is still alive. So on your first time playing, you wouldn't really necessarily think to just sprint down hallways and stuff like that if there's especially corpses around, because any one of them could just grab you and just attack you. So the zombies kind of added that unpredictability to them, so you couldn't really guarantee you killed it or the corpses you walk past would be dead. To me, that makes them pretty scary. Of course though, they're not exactly top tier scary as hell, because honestly, yeah, they're still the cannon fodder, they gotta be easy to kill, otherwise it would be a bit of a redundant game. So you still gotta like strategize whether you waste ammo trying to kill the zombie or just move on, but then you're at that risk of leaving that zombie behind to eventually ambush you. So for me, I think that's why I think zombies deserve to be scary. They're pretty scary, and of course there is that unpredictability to them that makes them a bit more different from your average zombie. So I can already see you're about to type in the comments and say, Billy, there are no cockroach monsters in the Resident Evil remake. That was a bit of an exaggeration of trolls online, I do apologise. Okay, why am I ranking cockroaches in the game? Technically, they are registered towards monsters when I was looking up on the wikis, but for as long as I can remember, I don't remember ever seeing cockroach enemies in both these remakes. I was kind of wondering, why were they registered in BOWs on wikis and everything like that? You'll even find in the files that it'll say something like big cockroaches. Really missed opportunity there, Capcom, not to name that file Big Cock. So I did look in the second game of the remakes. There is technically a cockroach monster, but they appear here. Yeah, a jump scare. I don't know what I really expected. I I don't even think I even got jump scared on many of my playthroughs for that game. I think I always just managed to guess where the key was for that section and just left. The thing that's kind of interesting about the cockroaches though, you can actually find concept art of them online for this game. But that's as far as the cockroach monster goes. They seem to have only been a concept before they even got programmed into the game. So I'd probably speculate maybe the cockroach was going to play a much bigger role. Maybe the cockroach was going to act like a swarm of monsters, similar to like the rats from Dishonored, that would eventually jump on you and start attacking you, weakening you, and then taking off a large amount of damage, similar to like the poison damage. My theory is, and this will even go into the weapon you can get as Leon, and it would explain it, I think the cockroaches were meant to act as like a single entity, so they would form together and fill this like ginormous monster, similar to the Hunters from Halo where they're made out of worms, or to the Rat King from The Last of Us Part 2, which was a combination of multiple monsters. So they're technically in the game, but again, they're just here. Just a really weak jump scare, which it's not that good, so sorry cockroaches, I'm afraid you're not bad. I think you could have actually been an interesting concept, but you're just not scary enough. I think the idea if it did become one sentient being would have been interesting. It would have explained the flamethrower Leon unlocks. Because otherwise, Raccoon City, why does your sewer cleaners need a flamethrower? What the fuck do you expect them to find down there?
Damn. Need a key card. You gotta be kidding me. Get off of me!
I'm actually kind of mixed on these guys, to be honest. Okay, now the idea of zombie dogs is interesting, but there's a bit of a continuity error with these guys. Okay, let's look at the zombie humans, for example. Why is it when the virus takes over them, it is just a corpse lumbering about and moving to the sides and tripping over? Yet, when a dog gets the virus, they just basically act like a dog trying to kill you. Okay, it makes sense gameplay wise, you know, a dog's pretty scary when it's just running at you, especially if it has that killer intent. And of course, a swarm of zombie dogs, pretty scary. But unlike the human zombies, where they're difficult to kill and they require specific ways to kill them, and they're unpredictable when you think you've killed them, the Cerberus dogs don't really have that. They basically just act like weaker enemies, but they're just really fast and hard to kill. And honestly, during Leon's section, they were the most annoying enemies to deal with. Trying to rush away while trying to either fend off all these zombie dogs or just dodge them is just really aggravating, really. There was nothing really interesting about it. And it seems like they learned that lesson in Resident Evil 3's remake, because you encounter these guys twice in the whole game. In fact, most of the time, I just see people say the dog enemies are not scary, they're just annoying to deal with, which, to an extent, I agree, but I'm not going to deny and say this design doesn't look freaking scary. Okay, truth be told, it doesn't look as scary as a human zombie, it just looks like a dog with a few bite marks on it, but at the same time, the first encounter with them was pretty scary, and seeing these dogs run really fast at you, especially in the herd, you know, that got me. But then when I quickly realised that they were easy to deal with, or when you could hit them, yeah, there wasn't really that much interest in them really, and the scare factor kind of just faded away and they just became just another monster to shoot. So I think it's fair that they deserve to be in the okay slot. I do think the Cerberus dogs are okay, I just do kind of wish they were a bit more scarier. Ooh, liquors. When these monsters appeared, these guys were the main reason that you realised you weren't playing another zombie game. So let's put you in the shoes of me when I was playing this in 2019. You know, before the 2020s arrived. So you're playing this game, you're all confident, you know, you understand the layout of the game, you've gotten used to zombies. When suddenly, this runs across the window.
What in the...
Okay, Then you find this note that explains these creatures are known as lickers and that you shouldn't run or shoot them. Because they have no eyes, they listen to sound. Getting some clicker flashbacks from The Last of Us, to be honest. And then you enter this room and you see corpses about, and they don't look as though they're just other corpses that have been killed off by zombies or other survivors. Some have their limbs hacked off, some of them have their heads torn off, and you're just wandering down the hallways wondering what could have...
What in God's name?
I'm assuming that's a licker. Yes, I remember just seeing this thing for the first time. It was late at night, my whole family went to bed, and I thought to myself, oh, let's play a horror game before bed. I'm sure I don't need any more nightmares that haunt my dreams. You just see a body get lifted off the ground and just torn apart and then just drop down, and then suddenly the creature starts moving around on the ceiling, and all you see is this skinless monster, its brain exposed, and then its tongue latching out, trying to feel the environment. First time seeing that, I did nothing. I just snuck away into the room and hid there until I was brave enough to come out again, and all I could hear was it shoveling on the other end. According to a lot of the wikis and the lore of Resident Evil, this is the next stage of zombies with the virus. Yeah, how about that? They go from zombies to red zombies to lickers. And I thought Magikarp had the weirdest evolution. They develop claws so they can stick to walls and ceilings, they crawl about trying to listen for sound. Even just tiptoeing near them, they know you're there. At the moment you're getting just a few feet towards them, they immediately know someone's in that room with them. If you walk near it though, it will immediately follow the little tapping footsteps it hears from you. And of course, if you shoot at it or run, that's when it knows there is something in that room and it chases after you. What I like about the lickers in the 2 remakes is where they don't just spawn them in just all manner of areas to like annoy you with having to deal with each one of them. They're placed in careful locations, more like quiet areas where you wouldn't really encounter a zombie. It would have been interesting if they did have this thing where if a zombie was led into the same room, it would attack the zombie, but I guess that would make the game a bit too easy if they could just kill the zombies for you just by hearing them moan or, you know, stepping around the area. Every encounter with a licker in this game is tense. It is slowly listening for you and you have to be careful to maneuver around it. You could waste time and try and kill it, but the problem is though you end up luring more monsters towards you and the lickers are so fast they could just end up dodging your shot. There are occasional moments where this game does force you to either have to fight or run against licker, which is a bit sad, but during some context though it does make sense, like when that one mission in the remake when you accidentally set off a bomb. So it does kind of make sense when a licker would get attracted to that. Though they never get attracted to you when you drop that giant bell. Nitpicks aside though, every encounter with a licker is scary, and they deserve to be scary as hell.
Ugh. You sure this is the right way?
Unfortunately.
Wait there.
Damn, so we're encountering a big monster this time. No zombie, no creature that climbs on the roofs, no dogs with a few bite marks on them. No, we're encountering a giant zombie alligator. Holy shit, the potential's unlimited here. I mean, alligators already are the scariest animals to encounter in real life, and suddenly you have one that's like twice the size of a double-decker bus? Boy, I cannot wait to play more of this level and see what it does during the sewer level.
Chew on that, you overgrown son of a bitch.
Oh. Well, that was a bit lame. I mean, you have the perfect concept of a monster that stalks the sewers while you're down there trying to solve a puzzle and escape. And you face this monster for just about a minute and then you blow it up. What's even more underwhelming is the fact that the build up to it was fantastic. You're with Ada and you're walking around the little entrance to the sewers and you hear earthquakes. Then the next encounter, you're looking forward and it looks like you're looking at rubble from the earthquake, and then it moves. So already painting that image that there is something down here with you, and it is not your typical monster. It's not a zombie, it's not a licker, it's not a tyrant. So what is it? Then you jump into the sewers and you start hearing something move in the shadows, and then that is just a great build up to a monster. Like, you're wondering what it is, they subtly hint to it, and then you encounter it. And unlike the previous monsters where you have a choice in whether you can shoot it, this game is telling you, run. Like, you are outmatched. This thing is bigger than you, it's meaner than you, and it will kill you in one hit. Same goes for us though, it went out in one hit from us. How do you ruin an alligator monster? Now, I can already see people going to type in the comments, well, you see, in the original game, you were only able to fight this thing for a few seconds before blowing it up. I've really got to stop doing that, don't I? Okay, now, of course, let me provide a counter-argument. I agree with you, in the original game, yes, it was just a random boss that you would encounter and then you blow it up with a propane tank. But here, let me ask this, then why is it the case when the Tyrant was remade in this game, it wasn't your typical boss that would come out at you and you'd have to shoot it and then walk past it? It was an ongoing threat that would chase you while you were trying to escape the station. Now, I'm going to talk about Nemesis and the Tyrant in their own little discussion bit, but I feel like if they were given a whole new overhaul from their previous counterpart, why couldn't the alligator as well? Why couldn't that have been another monster that chased you during the sewer levels? In fact, do you know what's even funnier? It originally was going to be that. You can look at some test footage on YouTube and you can see the alligator was going to play more of a bigger part in the level. Maybe not stalk you around through the entire level, but there were moments it was going to appear and stop you and even chase you for a moment. My guess is though, maybe they just couldn't be bothered to finish it, or maybe it was just too much work and they already did quite a lot for this game already, so maybe they just couldn't finish it. It was just short-lived, I'm afraid, in both a literal sense and metaphorically, so great design, alligator, but I'm gonna have to just put you in okay. You just really disappointed me in that bit. Speaking of sewer levels though, there was one monster that did get a revamp from its previous game, and in all honesty, design-wise, it's fantastic. While the alligator was a bit of a disappointing encounter, that's not to say the sewer levels were boring. Sure, there were a few zombies about, but what made the sewers creepy for me was the addition of the G's. So the G's sort of acted like the lickers in this case for this level. You still had your occasional zombies, but the G's would hide in the waters of the sewers and pop out to grab you, and rather than like scratch at you and attack you in like a normal monster way, they instead poison you, which definitely has its effects. When you're poisoned by these creatures, you are much slower than you were before, and not only that, you take damage over time until you inevitably find a cure. Of course, the reason they do that is to make up for what they lack is speed. Sure, they look big and muscular, but of course, because of all that body mass they have, they really lack speed. Of course, when they're swimming, they're much faster, but of course they can't really get you on land because they're much slower, which both gives you an advantage around them. Of course, the poison ability adds to their advantage when they're hunting you, because the more damage you're taking from the poison and the way you're slowed down, these creatures can then swim up to you or make up for their lack of speed to catch up to you to damage you. So they sound pretty brilliant, right? So why am I only putting them like mid-tier? Well, these creatures are quite limited for how many of them are in the sewers. At the top of my head, you fight one when you first enter the sewers, you fight another when you go to get a new weapon, and that's about it. And that's really about it. Sure, they might throw two in those sections, but yeah, you didn't really encounter them much. Not only that, but because they were so slow a lot of the time, if you were stocked up on ammo, and especially if you had a lot of Claire's weaponry, these guys are pretty easy to deal with. Not only that, most monsters in this game have a very specific weakness. Zombies, it's the head. Lickers, it's also the head. Zombie dogs, you can shoot them anywhere. The Tyrant was also the head because most of its body was covered. But these guys have a ginormous, almost like a target on their shoulder. You shoot out of a magnum and expose their one eye, shoot that, and they're dead. Or even heck, it's even worse with Claire. When you have that taser shotgun, you just electrocute them until eventually you blow off that portion of their arm and then just blast them with a grenade launcher and bam, they're dead. Sure, when they're swimming up to you, it makes it a bit more challenging, but if you also have a knife on you, a grenade, you can counteract their poison attack on you and survive it, and then use that opening to just damage them, really. Heck, if you're someone like me who stocks up on that ammo as much as they can through most of the game, these guys are kind of just that obstacle you have to get past, and their first reveal was scary, but they don't really surprise you like the other monsters did. Like, they don't really have anything that really stood out. I don't believe they were put here for padding. They clearly did a lot of good work on their custom design, but of course, because of the speed and of course their multiple weaknesses, including that ginormous target on their shoulder, pretty easy to deal with compared to the previous monsters. But I think design wise it's pretty creepy, so you know, mid tier I think it's deserving.
What the?
Similar to the Lickers and the G monsters, whereas the Licker was meant to be that special monster that was in the police station, the G was meant to be that special monster in the sewers, Ivies were the special monsters in the laboratories. And I gotta admit, the remake design of these things is way scarier than Carnivine if he was a drug addict. So you might think to yourself, oh, they're just basically zombies that are plant-based, what's so scary about them? Unlike zombies, you can't just simply shoot these things, they're plants. Sure, you can get a headshot on them, that doesn't do anything. You shoot them in the leg and yeah, that might be an inconvenience to them, but they just quickly recover. Now, the way you want to kill these things is either you aim for those little pulsating parts that spew out of the human body they've taken over, which honestly I think is a fate worse than death. Or if you're like Claire in this case, you could just use your grenade launcher to incinerate them. Of course though, you gotta make sure their body's burnt to a crisp because the vines would still be trying to reawaken the human body they've taken over. If you're unlucky and you can't have a way to counteract these monsters to escape, get ready for probably the most gruesome death you can have your character suffer in this game. Yeah, that went from a 1 to a 1 million in a second. Like, Jesus Christ, the way his head just splits open like a piranha plant, which by the way is a nice reference to their original design, and just chomps on your face until it literally gushes off your head. Like, oh, bloody hell, Capcom, who hurt you? Did people tell you that the original design wasn't scary enough, so you just had to make the most gruesome death of these monsters? Of course, if you are loaded to the stock with like your flamethrower, magnum, machine gun, a grenade launcher, then yeah, these guys do just become other zombies to deal with. Of course, on your first playthrough, I will admit I didn't quite understand what was going on with them when I first took them down. So like with Leon, I would shoot their pulsating parts and I'm there thinking to myself, man, these guys are easy. But then they kept getting up and I was noticing a few times that, yeah, no matter how many times I've shot this one Ivy zombie, it keeps on coming back. What am I doing wrong? And until I found a note where you need to literally burn them until there's nothing left. Makes sense because, well, plants hate fire. You would think with my years playing Pokemon I would know this. Design wise, I love the way these look. The way the vines are moving around this humanoid body, the way the head splits open to like tear your head off. Even to the noise it makes when it rises up from the grave.
What the?
The fact that it's literally vines like controlling his body like a puppet. Sure, you had the zombies and the zombie dogs, but you could still kind of see it almost was a person or a living thing still in that body. The Ivies, on the other hand, are almost like puppets being moved with strings. They definitely had that uncanny and very monstrous movement to them, because You could tell that this wasn't the corpse moving towards you, it was the actual living plant itself, and all it cared about was just devouring you. And even when you've damaged it enough to the point it's on the floor, you can see the plant moving around, trying to reawaken the body to chase you down again, pretty much to indicate that, yeah, I'm still coming for you. So I think for that case, they definitely deserve to be in the scary category, which is above the mid tier. So yeah, Ivies, you're done good. I really like how scary these creatures were. Now you would think with the Ivies being pretty scary, where they originated from would be even scarier, right? 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 Plant 43. I think similar case with the alligator, this thing really got shafted to just being a concept. When you look at the concept art for this monster, you kind of get a different idea of what this creature is. The hive mind of all the ivy plants, you are looking at a creature that's controlling all these monsters with its plants inside these corpses. The first moment you walk into the room and you see this ginormous plant, you're there thinking to yourself, holy shit, I have got to fight that thing. But unfortunately, this monster is just reduced to just a level design. You don't actually fight Plant 43, you fight the Ivies, which, yeah, you could argue this is similar case like with Halo's Gravemind. You don't actually ever fight it, you more or less fight the little flood monsters it controls, but when you look at the concept, they clearly were planning for this to be a boss fight, but it got cut for some reason. But I don't understand why they cut this. I'd rather fight a more unique boss fight rather than fighting the same G-monster boss for like the 5th time now. But no, the closer you ever get to fighting this creature is solving this poison puzzle. In fact, the only other time this monster ever gets interesting is when Mr. X breaks into his cage and tries to kill you, but again, that's just another monster trying to kill you. Even when it's dead though, the Ivy monsters are still moving and they're still chasing you, so Did they realise they were unemployed now and they decided, yeah, we can be independent, now let's kill that Leon motherfucker? Or was the Plant 43 not controlling the monsters at all and it was just another entity that just for some reason didn't think to attack you? It would kill those 2 scientists you find in its cage, but it never thinks to attack you? Why? I know, I'm probably diving onto this a little bit more than I should, but it just feels a bit underwhelming to have this really cool design monster reduced to just nothing. It's just that obstacle that you just have to get by and then just move on with your day. It's kind of upsetting really, because I really could see the potential in the boss fight for this monster, similar to the one from the first game, but made in a more modern era. But alas, Plant 43 is just that obstacle you have to get around just to get to the next level, so I think because of that, I will rank it not bad, it's just not scary enough for me. At least with the alligator, at least that tried to kill you for the small time it had on screen.
Something tells me he's not a cop.
Speaking of the tyrant, I think we do now need to address this monster. Again, put yourself in the shoes of 2019 Bill, who's just sitting there innocently after just defeating the first boss thinking, man, I am cruising through this game. What could possibly deter me from progressing any further?
Jesus Christ!
I just want to quickly point, the soundtrack that plays when this guy chases you is chilling. I remember playing this bit with like Leon, and this guy just lifts a helicopter with one arm, stares you down, and just shoves it aside like it was nothing. Sure, the G-Virus monster was a scary boss fight, but it was just a guy with a pipe when you think about it. This guy one-handedly moves the helicopter aside and just immediately chases you down like it's the Terminator. There's even times when you think you're safe from it and it'll just punch down a wall to chase you down. It can even enter some safe rooms, so you can't just hide in your safe room thinking you're safe from this guy. There are some rooms he's restricted from entering, which I do kind of question, but gameplay wise it makes sense, otherwise it would get too hard to avoid him. Though of course, what makes him stand out amongst the monsters, he's not just a thing that just spawns randomly and chases you and then after you get away he despawns. No, he is an ongoing threat in this police station when he arrives. Not only that, you still need to solve puzzles to escape the station because you're now trapped in the very place you were in previously. Now it has more zombies, now it has lickers, and now you have this guy chasing you. Not only that, if you start fighting monsters by shooting them, if you start sprinting, it will hear you. And even if you're moving things around, it will hear you and it will chase you down. I tell you, the amount of time I've been sneaking into an area and I just see him in the distance opening a door thinking I'm behind it, gives me chills. And what I even like, the moment he sees you, even from a distance, he immediately starts like stomping after you and you just hear the sound of his footsteps echoing through the station. Even when you have your headphones on and you listen, you can hear where he is around the station just by listening. Of course though, when you do have a Magnum, he does become a much more easier threat because you can just shoot him twice in the head and he falls to his knees, but that only gives you a few seconds to escape. Sure, he does have a few scripted moments where he just spawns in the area even if you're like really quiet, which is a bit annoying. It does take away the fear factor from it a little bit when it feels cheap when he just spawns. Even his final boss fight was really good, like the moment he reveals his true form, the giant claw arm that he has and he starts like throwing rubble and stuff like that. I will admit, it threw me off. I was really thinking he was going to be killed off in like some other monster. In fact, I did think that with Claire when he got impaled by the G monster. Only to reveal with Leon, he's still alive when he smashes into that plant case, so it makes you kind of wonder like, what happened to him? Things get revealed in the third remake that there are actually multiple tyrants around the area looking for witnesses to execute. It is kind of interesting, he's like a blend of both like 80s slasher monsters with the Terminator. I did really like that and it was pretty scary as hell when he first appeared, and even now, just trying to sneak away from him is tense and I love it. So of course I've been kind of low-key mentioning him, but let's actually talk about William Birkins, aka the G-Virus monster. In all honesty, yeah, he doesn't have that stalking vibe like the Tyrant does, but I won't lie, my first encounter with this guy caught me by surprise. Like, okay, you've just escaped the police station, you're about to escape and get outside, and then suddenly this thing blocks your way. A mixture of both man and monster, not like your zombie. You can clearly see William Birkin is still alive in there, but he's being controlled by this other entity that's formed on his arm. Of course, your first boss fight with him is your standard. He'll chase you until he gets really tired, and then you can just shoot his exposed eye until eventually he just plummets to his doom. Of course though, this is both a good thing, but also kind of a bad thing. You see, the more you explore the laboratories and all these secret areas, you uncover these notes about the G-Monster, realising that, you see, how it works is, the more damage William sustains during his battles with both Leon and Claire, and also against Nemesis in one of the comic spin-offs, it gains like these evolutionary perks that allow it to survive more of these weaponries and of course develop more of a resistance to them, as well as like growing extra parts like extra arms and extra healing abilities. Not sure why it spawns extra eyes though. I've always found that a bit weird, like why does it need more eyes? Design wise it looks cool. I love the amount of transformation this creature goes through. It starts off with just a man with this disfigured looking arm that's pulsating to eventually becoming this like ginormous tyrant sized monster to eventually like this beast with 4 arms which has like these deadly claws, has like an exposed chest showing its heart and eyes, to this even more beastly form where it's on all 4s and it's showing these rapid teeth and it's showing his like agility and climbing, to eventually it sustains so much damage it has to resort to becoming like this ginormous big bit of flesh, getting to a point none of your weapons can even damage it. Flamethrower, rocket launcher, grenade launcher, pistol, magnum, shotgun, minigun, nothing's working. It's gotten to a point, it's become this ginormous entity that can't be destroyed. In fact, the only thing that killed off William Birkin for good was a city-wide explosion in which he was engulfed in flames. You know you're a deadly monster when literally nuking a city is the only way to permanently kill you. So clearly showing that this was a really scary threat, that no matter what you did to him, it would come back stronger, faster, and it would have more ways of resisting your attacks, to the point this is why you need to gather up all these new weaponry so you can match this ginormous tyrant. Honestly, yeah, he was just reduced to boss fights, but he was a scary boss fight, and the new transformations you would encounter were pretty good, so for that reason, I'd definitely put it in scary as hell. I think that's really deserving for this type of monster. So of course, we've kind of encountered all the monsters from the Resident Evil 2 remake monsters, but now let's dive on to more of the Resident Evil 3 remake monsters. Of course, they do reuse some monsters like the zombies, the lickers, the Cerberus dogs, but they did add their own unique monsters into this game. Some were quite questionable, but this one was pretty interesting.
What the hell was it doing to them?
Oh, this was in the demo! So we'll get to Nemesis momentarily, but there was one unique thing he did do in this game compared to the original one. So after you solve a train puzzle and trying to get the train moving to save all the people trapped inside, you encounter a corpse that starts moving. At first you think it's just another zombie, but then you notice this. A goddamn idiot. Where did the corpse go?
Fuck.
You are different. Its head explodes and this parasitic monster appears with all these tentacles and pincers. Once you escape this monster, you go back to the train station and you start to see Nemesis implanting something into the zombies and starts transforming them into these parasite minions. I just will say, concept-wise, these are some really well designed looking monsters. I even love the way they transform with showing the parasite bursting out the head, its pincers like moving around. You see that weird tentacle that reaches out for you. Design wise, it's really good. But there's nothing really unique about it, and honestly they are pretty easy to deal with. Sure, they can hit you from a distance, and of course they can latch onto you and do a lot of damage by suckling on your head. This is starting to sound more kinkier than I imagined. But in all honesty, if you shoot them in the leg or even just damage their chest, they end up revealing their weakness and you can just shoot it twice and they're just dead. In fact, most of the time I just hid around the corner with a shotgun, waited for them to be in, and just blew off their leg and just left them. Yeah, design wise they're creepy, but gameplay wise, they're pretty easy to avoid. Overall, these monsters are pretty creepy looking, but yeah, they don't really have anything that really stands out amongst like the zombies or the lickers. Like they're just zombies that can damage you from a distance, really. So we'll put them with the G's, and they're mid-tier, cool design, and I will say their death animation on Jill is pretty gruesome. Do you ever wonder if Capcom have like some sort of hate boner for some of their protagonists? Unlock something, or what is that? What is... Oh! Someone on Rule 34 was really into that. Okay, so these guys are kind of in temporarily in the third remake, but for the short time they're in for it, they definitely left an impact on me, to say the least. When you see on my video, you noticed how freaked out I was at just the way it just grabs you and then just shoves its tongue down you. Compared to the original spiders, yeah, these things actually stand out as being more creepier and scarier compared to the other ones. But the spiders in this game, the way they look, the way they move, oh, just so disturbing. I think that makes them stand out amongst the other enemies of this game is the fact that when you go to the maze section on your first encounter, You don't seem to realise you are really out of your element here. Sure, these spiders are easy to deal with, it only takes a few shots to really finish them off, and even a few stabs with your knife, and you should be alright. But of course, this is a giant hive full of these monsters. They can appear out of anywhere. They've put all these weird fungus things around which they can hide in and then ambush you when you least expect it. You have to listen to their movements and watch your back. You have to make sure you're looking at all the pulsating flesh and see if they'll pop out of it to ambush you. On each of my playthroughs for this game, I am never sure when these creatures will jump up and attack me. It's always unpredictable. This is what I kind of like about it. Sure, there is that RNG aspect of it, which kind of makes it feel cheap when they get you from behind even though you just checked to make sure it didn't spawn. But I think for these type of monsters, that the fact you're in their hive as well, it adds that uncertainty when you're trying to escape. So I think for that, I think these spiders are deserving of being in scary, because in all honesty, just for the level alone and the fact that any one of them can attack you at any point when you least expect it, adds to that scary factor of these monsters. Constantly switching down there. What the fuck is that? Hunter bees. Again, I think this is kind of a similar case with the parasites heads of the zombies. Yeah, do you know what? These aren't badly designed monsters, they look scary. Just gameplay wise, they're not really that hard to deal with. In fact, on my first playthrough of this game, sure, while it was scary when they appeared, they were pretty slow in all honesty. At least with the G monsters, they at least could swim in the waters and, you know, hit you with that poison. But these monsters were just basically one-hit monsters. The moment they touched you, you're dead. On my first playthrough as well, I had a shotgun and pistol and yeah, they were pretty weak, especially when they opened their mouths. It just made them weaker. A few shotgun shells and bam, they're dead. What's even more sad is on my first playthrough, I actually completely missed the grenade launcher I could have gotten that section and actually made that area much harder than it needed to be, but even then, I still managed to kill them pretty easily. On my permadeath playthrough though, the moment I got my grenade launcher, man, these guys were easy. One shot with a grenade launcher and yeah, they were dead. I will say though, design wise, these monsters look great. I love their imposing size, I love the way their flesh pulsates, and honestly, the death animation saves it for being like in the bottom tier for me. Oh, I reloaded! Oh god, I'm dead. Oh. Jesus Christ, Capcom, why do you hate Jill so much? Is Jaru your CEO? Is he the one that's been ordering all these deaths? But yeah, so if it wasn't for the design and the deaths, I would honestly put them in okay, but I think they deserve to be pretty creepy because, yeah, first playthrough, you are going to be surprised and even disturbed when you first see these things, but when you're someone like me who's replayed the game a few times, yeah, they do just kind of feel like an obstacle to get by, so not really too much to say about them, so I think mid-tier's fine. No. It can't be not you guys again. Man, the hunters. Whew. Let me tell you, I did not expect to see the hunters in this game. So, to kind of give a story about this, after I played the second remake, during the start of 2020, I did actually play a little bit of the first game before I resumed playing it after the third game. The bit that I stopped playing the first one on was when I encountered this cutscene. And then you're getting chased by that very same creature from that cutscene. Because these weren't your average zombies at this point. They were fast, they knew where you were, they were armoured, they were much quicker. And the fact they had that roar, like the moment you entered a room and you heard that roar, you knew you were in the presence of these hunters. So then here I am playing the Resident Evil 3 remake and you're in the hospital. And at first, you notice there are no zombies about. In fact, there is like no one around. No lickers, no tyrants, no spiders, just nothing. But you encounter all these dead bodies and you start seeing these slash marks. So at first glance you're thinking maybe it was a licker, or maybe it was the tyrant, or maybe it was the G-virus, maybe he passed through here at one point before going after Leon. After you go around the hospital a bit and kill a few straggler zombies, you finally get this cutscene. The fact they recreated that cutscene from the first game remake, I'm not sure if it was in the original, but that was brilliant. And it was a good way for someone who's only just recently, for someone who's just played the first game, got that cutscene, and then you see it recreated. I immediately put together like, is this a hunter? Then you see the claws come through the door reaching out for you. It smashes open the door and roars at you how it did in the first game. And then you start seeing them stalking around the hospital. You see them in some rooms tearing apart corpses of zombies. Really emphasizing that they were the top of the food chain. Really emphasizing that they're the top of the food chain. These guys are the top dogs outside the tyrants. They were quick though, like these guys, if you're not prepared for them, they will fuck you up. Unless you have a magnum, you can just do this. Please use this on you. On my first playthrough though, I never got the magnum, so there was a bit more challenge when facing these guys. So hunters, you definitely deserve to be in scary as hell. Rock on, you reptilian bastard. Okay, so I guess now we have to go look for the... Wait, what are you? One of the new monsters they've added to this game though was these things called the Paleheads. So on my first playthrough, I didn't really know what a Palehead was, and then when I shot it and I saw it heal its wounds, that was a bit off-putting for me. These are basically zombies with a healing factor. They're much more resistant than your typical zombie, and no matter what limbs you blow off, even if you shoot them in the head, they will heal unless you have a magnum that can put them down for good. Which I did not, so I had to struggle dodging these creatures a little bit, and the Paleheads are one of the worst aspects of this game for me. Paleheads honestly feel like that monster that has just put there to waste ammo really. There's nothing really interesting aside the healing factor about them. Now I can already see you commenting, but really, isn't the whole idea of Resident Evil just to be sparing with your ammo and not worrying about monsters? It is, but the Paleheads kind of put a road in that sort of concept. Sure, zombies on one hand, they're just there to be obstacles as well that can easily be killed, or they can even surprise you with the fact that they can survive a majority of fatal wounds. And the whole idea of a healing zombie isn't a bad idea. Resident Evil 4 did a really great concept with the regenerators. But of course, just because they could heal wounds doesn't mean they were impossible to kill. You could damage them enough or even hit their weak points to eventually kill them. Paleheads did that similarly, but kind of in a worse way. You see, how Paleheads works, the more damage they sustain on their body, the slower they get. But of course, they're so jittery and everything like that, it's really hard to pin like a headshot on them, which that's where you need to hit them to kill them with the magnum. But in my case, on my first playthrough, I never did find the magnum, so usually in these games they would at least allow you to kill the monster still, even if you didn't have that specific weapon to kill them. I was really hoping maybe if I hit them enough in the head, I would at least kill them. But no, they will just keep on coming and killing you, and you can't stop them because you didn't find that magnum. Oops. It's not too bad, you can avoid them, but during the last section of the game they spawn so many of them, it gets to a point it was just annoying and I just wanted to get past that section. Sure, later playthroughs I did find the magnum, but even with the magnum there's still really redundant enemies to deal with. Because you have to quickly stop and kill them, and because you're in such confined spaces, you do have to fight them. You don't really have a choice in the matter. Which is unfortunate because the majority of the second and third remake, you spend your time avoiding more conflict if you can, and you can save a lot of ammo. What's even annoying is that in the original game, Paleheads weren't a thing, so it really just feels like they just added these monsters in there just because, well, there was no special monster near this point, and they felt like they needed to pad out the game because yeah, if you remove the Paleheads from this laboratory level, it's a pretty quick level if you just put the zombies in the Paleheads' places, so adding these really redundant enemies that you have to deal with is just a bit repetitive to me. It is unfortunate that Paleheads are just reduced to being this annoying concept of an enemy to deal with, but Yeah, and even its design is just not that appealing, which I know, and that's the whole point of monsters, but I mean it's not scary looking. Especially with its teeth and everything like that, it just looks like Slender Man if he was on crack. So, unfortunately, Paleheads are going to have to be the very bottom of the tier. They're not bad concept-wise, just they're not scary and just more annoying to deal with. So, sorry Paleheads, you were a pale imitation of what you could have been. And of course, we have to end this off by talking about the most iconic tyrant of all gaming, the Nemesis. Saying off the bat, I still think he is top tier. Now, I will say some criticisms that, majority of people said. Is he as good as the tyrant from the second game? No. But I think he's scary in his own way. He didn't need to be like the tyrant from the second game, he just had to be his own tyrant. Your first true encounter with him that isn't a scripted chase sequence is really good. You finally solve the puzzle and then you're going back to the train station and big surprise, a building collapses and you see the very same creature that was chasing you that you thought was dead. Obviously I knew he wasn't going to be dead, I mean he's the main antagonist of the game, so I kind of knew he was going to be back. But the fact he catches you off guard, punching down a wall and starts chasing you, and if you do escape him, at first you're thinking you're safe and you've avoided him, but then he just jumps right in front of you, showing that, yeah, he is not like the tyrant from the second game. If the tyrant from the second game was considered the T800 of the games, then I really feel like Nemesis is the T1000. He's more well developed and he's way more dangerous than the tyrant. Not only that, he has way more abilities that helps him stand out. He has his tentacles that can grab you from a distance and yank you in. He can even pull you out of a safe room if he waits for you. He can jump down in front of you as you're about to enter a door to stop you from escaping. He can jump in front of you, throw zombies at you, and not only that, even though he has that exposed weakness on his chest, if you were to try and shoot at that with a pistol, he would sometimes catch the bullet as you're shooting at him. Sure, Nemesis would go down to like a grenade explosion, but 90% of the time, if you didn't have a grenade on you, and you just try to shoot his heart, you might get lucky. But the moment he realizes you're shooting at him, he'll block it and he'll catch your bullets. Dangerous, he's fast, and in all honesty, I also kind of like his boss fights more than I like the G-Virus ones. Like, okay, the G-Virus boss fights were still good, but I feel like Nemesis ones were also really good. Like the first encounter with him in a boss fight sort of environment, he has a flamethrower. He spends the majority of the time chasing you through a building construction site. Overall though, he was scary as hell. I think he deserves to be top tier. I mean, come on, like, he may not be as considered the best compared to the previous tyrant, but he was still good in his own way, and I do think he deserves that type of respect. And it made me appreciate Nemesis a lot more than just being that other typical zombie monster in a video game. And with that said, that is all the monsters from the Resident Evil Remake ranked. Man, there was a lot of things I had to say about that, and you know what? This was really fun. Halloween's all about looking at all the monsters that children dress up as, and even the monsters that are in movies and TV shows and video games, and even throughout our history with the mytho monsters. And the Resident Evil series not only took inspiration from many of these mythos and other monsters, they added their own twist to them. It took basic concepts like werewolves, lizards, giant monsters, and parasitic monsters and just added their own twist to them. They might have not have all been perfect, but you know what? There were some really good gems in the remakes, and you know what? I am looking forward to seeing what more monsters await us in the future. Oh yeah, I forgot about the zombies that were killing everyone outside. Well, it was fun playing the remakes for one last time, so I guess this is the end for us people, so I'm going to quickly make some amends with some of my friends and, finally kiss this world goodbye. I'm going to start with your anime, because I do kind of owe him an apology.
Hello?
Hey mate, I thought I'd let you know before we're horribly maimed by all these zombies that are devouring the world right now. I was the last one to eat your Ben & Jerry's ice cream. It was, very douchey of me. I am very sorry, but hey, man's gotta eat.
Okay, Billy, first of all, you don't know where I live. Second, there are no zombies.
What?
Yeah, you're in a coma right now. See, you jumped off your roof and tried to glide like Batman.
You gotta admit though, I looked pretty good in that suit, especially my arse.
Bill, you're not even talking into a phone right now. You're talking into a piece of fruit.
So I am. Actually expired. All jokes aside, people, I do appreciate you if you watched this video and if you enjoyed this new edition of Billy Ween. I had fun making all these videos, including that really awkward one with the dinosaur games that weren't as good. Of course, I've enjoyed doing the Lads Discuss Death Battle, and I'm really appreciative of all the people that subscribe to me. We've recently crossed over 300 subscribers. I'm really happy with our accomplishment, and I hope you stick around for more. Of course, though, this will be the last time you see this room, I'm afraid, for I am in fact moving away to my new home at the end of this month. It's a new start for me and my family. We've got our own house now. We're no longer living in a crappy flat. So, yeah, from this onward, I will not be making any videos in November because I'm going to be setting up my new room and obviously preparing for Christmas. And also enjoying some time off from my birthday and everything like that. So, thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed what you saw here, be sure to share a video around and get the channel growing. Farewell, everybody. It's actually a pretty good pad, to be honest.